When did you find out your pilot was trying to kill everyone? I was 19 and working at a summer camp in Montana. Last day of the season, 6 of us counselors pooled our money to hire this small plane to fly us to the nearest city instead of taking the 12-hour bus ride. The pilot's name was Dennis. Older guy, maybe 60, ran a charter service out of his garage, charged us $50 each, which seemed like a steal. We loaded into this tiny 6-seater plane that smelled like gasoline and old coffee. Dennis didn't say much during the safety check, just grunted and pointed at seatbelts. 20 minutes into the flight, I noticed something weird. Dennis kept looking at his watch, not like checking the time, more like counting down. Every minute he'd glance at it, then at the fuel gauge, then back at his watch. My buddy Travis was sitting up front. He leaned over and asked Dennis if everything was okay. Dennis smiled, said everything was perfect. Best day for flying he'd seen all year, but his hand was shaking on the controls. I'd flown in small planes before. My uncle had one. Pilots don't usually grip the controls that tight unless something's wrong. 10 minutes later, the engine started making this weird clicking sound. Not loud, just this little tick 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 that probably nobody else noticed. I did because I'd helped my uncle work on his plane once. That sound meant fuel pressure problems. I tapped Travis on the shoulder and asked him to check the fuel gauge. He looked, then looked again, turned back to me with wide eyes and mouthed, empty. We'd taken off 30 minutes ago. There was no way we'd burned through a full tank that fast. Dennis was still staring at his watch, counting. I unbuckled and moved up behind Travis. Asked Dennis directly how much fuel we had left. He wouldn't look at me, just said we were fine. Plenty to make it to the airport, but I could see the gauge. The needle was touching 0. Travis grabbed Dennis's shoulder, asked him again, this time louder so everyone could hear. That's when Dennis started crying, not sobbing, just tears running down his face while he stared straight ahead. He said his business was bankrupt, owed $200,000 to the bank. His wife had left him 3 months ago. His daughter wouldn't return his calls. He'd been planning this for weeks, waiting for a full flight, wanted to make it look like an accident so his life insurance would pay out. He'd drained most of the fuel before we took off, left just enough to get us over the mountains where nobody would find the wreckage for weeks. The clicking got louder. The engine was dying. Travis punched Dennis in the face. Not hard enough to knock him out, just hard enough to snap him out of it. I grabbed the controls from the back. I didn't have a license, but I'd logged maybe 30 hours with my uncle, enough to know basics. We were losing altitude fast. Mountains everywhere, no good place to land. Travis was yelling at Dennis, asking where the nearest flat ground was. Dennis just kept crying and saying he was sorry, over and over. One of the girls in back, Amy, pulled out her phone. No signal. We were too far from everything. The engine died completely. Just quit. Sudden silence except for wind and people screaming. I saw a clearing, maybe 200 yards long, covered in tall grass. No trees. I aimed for it. We were dropping too fast, nose too high. Travis was trying to help, but neither of us really knew what we were doing. We just kept the wings level and hoped. We hit hard. Front wheel collapsed immediately. Plane skidded on its belly through the grass, sparks everywhere. I thought we were going to flip or explode or both, but we just slid and finally stopped about 20 feet from a line of trees. Nobody moved for like 10 seconds. Then everyone started checking themselves. Cuts and bruises. Amy had a bloody nose. One kid named Cody hurt his wrist, but we were alive. Dennis sat there with his head in his hands, still crying, kept saying he couldn't do it, couldn't actually kill us. He'd tried to pull up at the last second. That's why we'd gained just enough altitude to make it over that final ridge. We dragged him out of the plane. Travis wanted to beat him unconscious. I probably should have let him, but Dennis just collapsed in the grass, completely broken. It took 3 days for search and rescue to find us. Turned out we'd crashed about 40 miles from where we were supposed to be. Dennis got 15 years, attempted murder, 6 counts. His insurance didn't pay out. His family got nothing. I didn't fly again for 8 years. When I finally did, I checked the fuel gauge myself before we took off. The pilot gave me a weird look, asked if I had trust issues. I just smiled and said I used to work at a summer camp in Montana. He nodded like that explained everything.